So we're going to go back to intro. Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Becoming Podcast. My name is Sunny, and I am here with my co host, Tammy. And I have the pleasure of our guest today, who is Terlesia Shipe. So, a part of the Becoming Podcast, we are sharing healing stories and becoming stories of women and talking about what they have done to overcome certain parts of their life and who they want to be. And so, with that, we are diving into the frequency and energy that comes from our voice and storytelling. So, I'm going to hand it over to Tammy to get us started.
Thank you. I'm going to sort of start in with a question and just preface that what we're doing here is considered narrative medicine. And so, for the listeners who are hearing the story, we hope that you find resonance both in the voice as it's being spoken and in the story itself, because we're all on a journey of revealing ourselves and becoming a version of ourselves that we kind of always knew was in there. And that's kind of the preface of the first question, which is, doesn't matter the horizon of your life. It could be from birth, pre-birth up until now, but was there or were there moments in your life that you recall and remember as you tell us a little bit about yourself, that you either a small whisper or a big voice said, that's not going to be my story?
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Terlesia. I grew up in the New York area, and I am one of six kids, second born. Um, my mom started out as a single mom to four kids, and then a couple years later, met a man who she married, and he became my stepfather. Um, from the outside world looking in, you'd have thought we were the perfect family, church going family. Um, and lo and behold, there was definitely a lot going on in the inside. Um, so I, um, let's see.
You're doing
So
great. You're doing
I,
great. Because I can see there's something coming. Because what's a lot? What does it mean when you say a lot going on the inside?
yes, because I'm just like, I don't know how like deep you guys want me to go, or like
It's
I'm
your
I'm very
story. It's
I
your
have
It's
story.
shared
your
this story
story. So,
before.
yeah, it's
I'm
what you're
very
comfortable with
open.
sharing.
Okay.
Yeah. Your story, your medicine. We're facilitating a space that hopefully you feel comfortable in. It's
Hmm.
it's the three of us, obviously, but it's also the world because this will
Right.
live to be medicine for everyone. And as I say to Sunny and anyone that's talking, like to the degree that you want to tell your story and
Okay.
stand in your truth, the card we pulled earlier, your truth and your integrity, this is
Hmm.
your time. This is your time.
Okay. 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 So, yeah. So, as I mentioned, there was a lot going on. So I was about three or four when my mom married her husband, and he started sexually abusing me. And that went on for about up until I was 6 or 7 years old. Um, so that
Let's
was
just
like,
pause right there
okay,
and just stare at you and say, I am hearing this deeply, and you are so brave already. So brave. Thank you.
thank you. So, as a young child, that was a lot, a lot physically, emotionally, mentally. Um, and I didn't know, how to handle that. I do remember once it came out, and the way in which it did come out, my mom actually walked in on him, caught him in the moment. So that was, it was intense. I
Yeah.
won't ever forget that day. Honestly, I can
Right.
clearly remember my mom's reaction. She like screamed and just like turn around and she ran. Just like crying and screaming and stuff. So, and then, um, from that day on, it was the abuse stopped, but there was like the mental and psychological abuse that continued. Um, and I will share this. My mom growing up, um, she had her own like mental health struggles. So, at the time as a child, I was not aware of that at all. I didn't know. I just thought, mom's going to the hospital. So that particular situation, I think, also set my mom off into a downward spiral for the next 20 plus years, I'd say. Um, so, um, so that happened. It was again, brought to the light. But I continued, obviously living in that home. Um,
And he stayed?
and he stayed. So
So
we
there was
were
no law involved or nothing?
not yet. So what ended up happening, like I said, my mom, she had her own mental health struggles. So as we grew up, um, and I got to be in middle school, one of the days my mom had like, I mean, it's like a psychotic breakdown. She ended up walking from our house to my middle school, and she went into the office literally just telling them what her husband had done to me as a child. It was, so that's when the police and CPS got involved and everything. And so,
Years later, this occurs.
years later, okay, so I will back it up a little bit. So we went to church faithfully every Sunday, every Wednesday, okay? And so when it came out, when she, caught him and everything, she reached out to the pastor. So both of them reached out to their pastor. And basically, the pastor did the counseling, and I quote unquote counseling for him, quote unquote counseling for me as well. But they also encouraged her to stay with him, to forgive and to stay. Okay. So I'll just throw that in there. So, but from that day on, my mom continued, I would say once or twice a year, she would have like a breakdown and she would talk about the past, what he did. Um, and then she not only brought it to the school, but sometimes in churches, the churches that we would go to, because we did quite a bit of church hopping, but she would have a breakdown also at the church and tell, the pastors and stuff like that about it. So, so she did that at the school when I was in middle school. I was interviewed by police and Child Protective Services. At that time, my mom decided to basically shut down. So because of like the laws, they were different during that time, back in those days. My mom, like when they were questioning her about what she saw, basically what she witnessed and everything. And, it was basically my word against his word, but my mom was the one who actually walked in. But she did not, she did not go press charges or go all the way, so that, at the time I didn't understand that. I didn't quite, think much about it, because like I said, we grew up in a very religious home. So, you forget and you forgive and you move on, right? And then with my mother's husband, as that's what I like to refer to him as, not a father, because he was not a father to me. So he you know his idea was to, he apologized, but then he wanted to try to create this father-daughter relationship moving forward. And that, honestly, that never happened. I always had like a wall up. There was always like tension there between us. There was a feeling of you know not safe, unsafeness, and just disgust, honestly. And just the feeling of wanting to, I don't know if you ever had that feeling of your skin crawling, like when someone
Yeah.
walks in the room.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the feeling I had towards him, like
Yeah,
growing
your
up.
nervous system knows that's dangerous.
Yes, it's
Mm-hmm.
dangerous. Yes, yes. So like I said, he stopped abusing me that day, like actually, stopped coming into my room every night and all that stuff. But
Maybe stopped abusing you in that way, but it
Right.
doesn't sound like at all the abuse stopped.
correct, correct. It was a lot of psychological, mental abuse, and at times tried to, get physical, using spanking as a mode of to try to correct me. Um, Also use like the Bible to try to manipulate me, like our relationship.
Hmm.
But he still would continue, like, for example, there would be times I would be at the kitchen sink washing dishes. This was in my early to late teen years.
Mm.
Washing dishes, he would come up to me, kiss me on the neck, put his hands around, me like I was his woman,
Mm.
So, and all through all of this, I would always tell my mom about it. Always. And then she would talk to him, they would argue. Um, but there was not a change. There was never a change. He was not changing in those regards.
Hmm.
Another time I was 15 years old at the time, and I don't remember what it was over, but he tried to physically discipline me by having me, like, drop my pants and want to spank me with a belt. At that moment I said, absolutely not. We're not doing this. And I actually end up fighting him.
Hmm.
So I ended up getting to like a physical altercation with him. My brothers all came into the room and were fighting him as well. Um, and so then finally, um, at the age of 19, I wish I would have done it sooner, but that's when I said, you know what, I'm getting out of here. And
Hmm.
so I literally packed my bags and I left. I left my house. I had prior attempts, like one time I was like 13, I believe. 13 or 15. Um, and that didn't work. But at 19, I said, nope, we're gone. I'm leaving. So I
Hmm.
feel like that's when I really drew up the courage, everything within me. And thank God I had this amazing friend and her family who
Hmm.
let me come and stay with them. And I ended up living with them for two years actually, so I could get on my feet and start my journey, away from my home, away from my mom and a man that said that he was going to be there for us, be that father figure, and
Hmm.
but it wasn't easy. It was not easy
Oh
at
my
all.
God.
It
I
was
mean,
very, very hard.
you're very articulate in sharing it, and I can imagine anyone listening to it is going to be very moved by it. And so, like, I'm thinking, let's say someone who was in the shoes that you were in, that little, where you're 3 years old, 4 years old, five, six, the age that you were talking about. What would you say to her right now? Like, what would be like if you are me, if you're in this situation, what would you say to her?
Honestly, I would say tell someone, because
Mm-hmm.
for years I kept it in, and I also felt so ashamed, and I
Mm-hmm.
felt like it was my fault.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I do also realize that part of that too was my mother's husband speaking those words, like, don't
You were
tell anyone.
groomed. Yeah, you were
Right.
groomed.
Don't tell anyone. You don't want daddy to get in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
But that is honestly one of the biggest things I wish I would have spoke out more about it. I know it may sound like, oh, that's what a lot of people might say, but I really truly feel and believe that's the one thing I wish I would have done is really spoke out, and told someone.
Yeah. And when we talk about, thank you for saying that. And I also, no one's probably going to pick this up, but when they rewatch the video, something very powerful happen when we say that our voice is our medicine. You've been just right on point, articulate through the whole thing. But when you said, I wish, and then you went, you had to clear your whole energetic throat area. Like, I wish I would have told someone that whole center of communication, you had to clear it. And so, when we talk about the power of frequency and medicine and energetics, it's right here.
Hmm.
And women need to be able to hear this and understand like the power. I don't want to, it's not like I'm telling women to do this. It could be actually men or women, but there's a courage that was inside of you that is here right now that was there then that drew forth this telling, right? At
Hmm.
any age, but I want people to be able to hear you and say like we hear it a lot like tell, 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 but just keep telling until someone hears you. Whatever courage, what were the things that helped you get through the day to day? Because there are going to be little girls or little boys who don't understand any of it. And there's going to
Hmm.
be women your age, my age, Sunny age, that never said a word and still don't
Hmm.
understand any of it and still possibly even being around their abuser, right?
Right. Right.
So what were the things that helped you move through it and got you to the place of like, I'm gonna leave here right now? Because those
Right.
little nuggets were your becoming stories. But you
Hmm.
you were highly, highly corrupted. I mean, in the um, kind of what we call psyop, which is like someone psychologically messing with you. It's a psyop
Hmm.
of religion, of parenting, of what little kids are supposed to do. You had a lot of that happening to you. So when I hear you talk about the physical abuse, there were so many levels of psyop happening.
Hmm. Hmm. Yes.
And
Yeah.
it's hard to get to where you are when someone hears this, if they are not like you say, go tell someone. But here's the other things that you can share that you did along the way.
Right. Yes. I would say the number one thing that I did, honestly, was pray and talk to God. I also kept a journal. So I did a
Hmm.
lot of journaling, a lot of praying, a lot of crying,
Hmm.
as
Hmm.
a child. And then I also had my brothers. So the four of us are all a year apart. And actually, it's been confirmed three out of the four of us experience the same, similar or same sexual abuse as well by the same person.
So boys and girls. So he
Correct.
was an absolute predator on every level.
Correct. 100%. Yes. Yep. Yep.
Is
But
he
I
free, by the way, still? Is he
would
free
you say
walking? Just
he's
out of
still free walking this world, walking this
be
earth. And
beware,
that's mind
people.
blowing.
Beware, people.
Right. Yes. No, seriously.
They do not. This is the risk and the danger of like they don't stop.
Right. Oh, right. Oh, I know. I know. And we are only one group of kids that, you know, who knows who else, where else, you know?
Right.
Um, but yeah, so I would say number one, God, that was literally my guiding light. Um, and it's very interesting too, because you would think God was probably the last person I wanted to talk to because he used God or tried to use God to like manipulate our relationship, just everything, literally everything. But I literally always thought to myself, like, we must serve two different gods. We have to, because the God that you're talking about, he can't be okay with what you're doing to us in this house.
Hmm.
There's no way.
And for
So
you to
I,
also be able to say that God isn't doing this to me, this person is doing this to me.
Yeah.
God
right.
gave us free will, and this is what you're doing with it. Because I think
Hmm.
that that's what sometimes, right, there's something happens, and there's the how could God let this happen to me? How could God let this happen to other children? And, it's like, but that was part of learning that we were given our own minds, we were given our own ability, our own free will. And what people choose to do with that, we know that God died for our sins. So then it is already forgiven. But again, right, being able, even as a kid, to make that distinction, like that's powerful.
Right, yes. And just to speak more on that, that's one question that I, since I was a kid, I would always ask, like, God, why me? Why did this have to happen to me? And even still, every once in a while, like, I'll think about that, like, why? And part of that is too because I see, because of what I went through as a child, I see how it has impacted and affected different areas of my life. Like, for
100%.
one, I feel like, I might be more, or I am more protective over my kids,
Hmm.
listening to my kids,
Mhm.
investigating. Like, I have to be, I have, I have actually, I think, Sunny, I shared this with you once, but, when someone did, two people had done things to my kids, it made me very, very upset. I may have punched one, might have, but, but yes,
Allegedly.
I've definitely seen it show up. Like I said, and I know it has a lot to do with the way in which, I was raised, what I went through. And I know, from a very young age, I said, I don't want to be like my mom. I don't want to end up like her.
Hmm.
And that's another thing that was very important to me to make sure I got the counseling that I
Hmm.
needed,
Hmm.
Mhm.
and just to, surround myself around a different group of people.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah.
It's a lot. This is an intense sharing because what I'm hearing is like we know the statistics. It used to be 1 in 4. I think it's even less now for um, girls. I think the number is a
Mhm.
little bit different for boys. And the hijacking of your nervous system that occurs the moment that happens, and you the hypervigilance that you go into from that moment for the rest of your life
Mhm.
until you find ways, or I wouldn't even say until, I think you just begin to understand, like, is this the hypervigilance or is this the reality? Is this hyper safety or is this the reality? It's very hard to figure out those worlds. So it's
Mhm.
no surprise that your parenting would take on everyone as a predator. And
Mhm.
yet, as we talked about from the podcast that you participated in a while back, 2 days ago, um, the regulation that has to happen inside of us to get to a place that you are now of becoming, feeling the feelings, a sovereign being versus a being with a hijacked nervous system, right?
Mhm.
Because
Mhm.
all of the world that you see after something like that is very different than a world that everyone, I mean, everything is a threat from there that
Right.
moment on. And so how do you parent, be in relationship with a significant other, be a friend, be a coworker when the whole world is a threat? How did you navigate that?
Um, yeah, that was definitely a challenge. I I mean, I think that's part of the reason why, like, I have not dated a ton of guys. Like, in my lifetime, I would say. I've been married for 15 and a half years. But before my husband, I was actually scared of, men,
Mhm.
to be honest
Mhm.
with you. Um, and actually black men.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, black men that had a certain look. Like, if they reminded me of my mother's husband, absolutely not. Like,
Mhm.
terrified. Um, but then, as I got older, and obviously now being 40, I know that everyone is not like my mother's husband, and I know that, I've been really blessed with an amazing husband. I was actually, I remember first telling my husband about the abuse. We were teenagers, but I lied to him and I told him it was an uncle that did it. But
Mm,
eventually, I opened up to him and told him who it
yeah.
really was. Um, but yes, it was definitely, learning to trust people and also,
Trust yourself.
would you say?
Trusting your own self, like I said, because your
Yes.
nervous system is not wired after that moment
Right.
to trust any environment, including
Hmm.
yourself. So
Right.
you become super spidey, you have altered intuition because your nervous system learns to be ahead of what could be coming. This is why you hear many women who have been through stories like this have ultra high intuition, right?
Hmm.
Because you're 20 steps ahead to protect yourself in any environment.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting that you just brought that up too, because I was just talking about that with my husband. The intuition, because I think sometimes I struggle with knowing, like, okay, is this due to my childhood? Like, I feel like I'm on alert all the time, or is this legitimately like a feeling that I'm having because something's not right, if that makes sense.
And you can be open possibly to both of it being true.
Yeah. Especially when it comes
Yeah.
to feeling other people's energy. Like,
Hmm.
I feel like that's a huge one. Like, I'm like, all right, that's definitely not a good person. You're not trying to judge anyone, but like, yeah, just feeling their energy and
And
Hmm.
that's
yeah.
something that you and I have talked a lot about is only taking a moment to be like, nope, I don't deal with you. Like there's a
Right.
particular woman that is in both of our lives and just not knowing anything about Terlesia, her story, her relationship to this person. And I just was kind of like, yeah, I don't know if I really kind of dig them. And then she led on to me like, oh, I know them too. And yeah, I feel the same exact way. And then like certain things happen that you're like, ooh, knew it because something has happened. You're like, yeah, I picked up on that really quickly. And
Hmm.
it is kind of right, both of those life experiences and just female intuition, the energies that we're able to receive because, like I've learned so much from Tammy about how just ancestrally that is how we spoke to one another, was just how did you show up into a space, and those practices get suppressed, especially a lot from male dominance in the world and the way that Western medicine and things like that and language has changed over times where we start to lose that ability. And then when something kind of re-triggers it, it's like, oh, right, oh, you're acting too much like a girl. Your emotions are leaning into that. And it's like, no, 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 no. That is how I'm meant to be experiencing the world. And I don't have to deal with everybody because, right, I'm not wrong about what energy I'm receiving when I speak to this person. That's,
Hmm.
I feel like, right, you learn to tell children if they make you uncomfortable, you don't have to give them the hug. You don't have to go be with that auntie, that uncle, that cousin, that friend, that whoever, because
Hmm.
right, kids especially, they haven't been taught the things that we're taught, which is don't lean into that piece of your intuition, your feelings. They just experience it. And so that's why I think, right, is such like an important message to tell them, like, if they give you the ick, as the kids call it nowadays,
Right.
don't bother with them.
Hmm.
Yeah, that is 100% true. And I hope everyone who's listening hears that. And especially if you've been through anything remotely close to what you've been through, Talicia, this is not the right frame to say, but you have earned in a odd way the right to already know what is the intuition that you have, and because of what you've been through, you have this is your nervous system it is not playing tricks on you. Even the fact that you have to say, like, is it me or is it my, the way that you can like be in the moment with it. It's like,
Hmm.
this person is giving me the creeps. You first believe it and trust it. And
Hmm.
then you do your breathing, you do whatever your exercise is, and then you watch their behavior. But people are very cunning, especially the groomers, right?
Hmm.
That's why that extra, um, it's a gift in the awfulness that happened.
Hmm.
And nobody would ever want to phrase it in that way, but it's truly a gift that you have now to
Hmm.
have that. The part that we want to be able to do, though, is regulate the nervous system in the gift.
Right.
So I see it, I sense it. Do I have to feel it though? Does it have to disrupt me? Do I have to get angry about it? Can I see it, feel it, sense it, move through it, protect myself, protect my energy, protect their energy? Just like we talked about a couple of days ago, given the story of your mother, that the mtDNA, you probably already came in super hyper alert and aware,
Right.
right?
Hmm.
So trust that gift. And I wouldn't second guess it for a second. I would just say to myself, like, how can I be in the feeling of it? Because you can pick up obviously, it sounds like you're very empathic. You can pick up on it, but how does it stay theirs? So I see it, feel it, sense it, but it's not coming in my energy field. It's not
Right.
welcome here.
Hmm.
And 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 stay away from it. Stay clear of it. Keep your kids clear from it. And this could be any type of person.
Right.
Any
Oh
type
yeah,
of
absolutely.
person. Yeah, because we could get in a self-sabotaging cycle of like wanting to fix and help and do all the things that we're trained to do as women, but it is self-harming behavior.
Hmm.
So, do you have like nuggets for parents? Because now that you have this and now that you're a parent, what are the things that you have learned about parenting coming from a history of physical, psychological, mental warfare, really?
Yeah. I think the biggest one would be talking, having a relationship with your kids, communicating, listening to them, um, investigating,
Yeah.
you know, things that they tell you, um, and just being there for them mentally, emotionally, um, and in the moment, you know,
Mhm.
because I didn't have a lot of that. Really, I didn't have any of it. So that was another thing that I said I wanted, um, as a parent, like I want to be there for my kids. I want to listen to them, um, and open communication.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, yeah.
Okay. Sunny, do you have your next? We pass off questions back and forth.
Yeah. Um, I think we kind of talked on that piece. So I guess through your kind of 19-year-old self that was able to really find, something we talk again about is the relationships with women and how important they are so that you were able to lean on a friend and their family. What do you think the pieces are of you that you start to reclaim after you were able to get out of the home that you were sharing, essentially with your abuser and with your mom? So, what do you think that maybe you lost and how you got that back?
The number one thing was my voice because for years I literally, and I'm not just saying that because of this, but literally for years I had to keep that inside. I
Mhm.
didn't tell anyone. So when I moved out of my house, I literally took to social media. I created Facebook posts and just explaining what happened, why I moved out. Because again, we were really well known in the like Christian community, the churches and stuff like that. Everyone knew our family. So a lot of friends, my Facebook friends and stuff like that, you know, they're wondering why I'm living now with this other family. So I went on there and I just shared what happened and why.
Good for you.
Um, and then
Hmm.
I literally just started talking about it to my family. I shared it with, so my mom's siblings, because my mom is one of nine. So I started sharing it with them as well. And then just literally, just like everyone,
And how
if
about your
they ask
brothers
me,
with you?
would you say?
How about your brothers?
My brothers?
Where did they show up in the journey of disclosure?
So I want to say I was in my early 20s actually is when I shared with them in detail like what happened, when it would happen and everything. And then they started sharing some of their story as well with me. Um,
Were
and then
you surprised?
was I surprised? No,
Hmm.
not at all. Nope, not at all. Not at all. As of the type of person he is. So it did not shock me at all. Um,
Now, was your stepdad the father to any of them, or they were already just your mom's kids that he married into?
he was the father to my younger two siblings. So they're 6 and 7 years younger than me.
Hmm.
The younger two, one boy, one girl.
And that
And now,
they
were they
received
a
the same?
part of this, or no? Did he leave them alone?
I know for a fact that my sister was a part of it.
Hmm.
Yes. He literally moved on from me to her.
Hmm.
Literally. And again, like I said, no one, he apologized, but are you really sorry if you moved on from me and went on to my sister?
Right.
But no one knew that, you
Hmm.
know. It was still that was a huge family secret,
Hmm.
that particular, and that's a whole other story, whole other story.
Yeah, the magnitude of what you're sharing as if I were sitting in a listener's seat is like how how do we use alchemize and share your story so that if there's just even one person, doesn't matter how old they are, if it ever happened to them, to see and pick up the resonance of the courage in your voice so that they can just take one more step, even if it's a baby step to sovereignty,
Mhm.
one more step to saying it out loud to even just one person so that it moves the energy from their body out. Because you're very articulate in it. You've clearly done a lot of work being able to tell it. Um, and I love how you claimed it right out in public. Uh,
Mhm. And that was for me. Um, that was the start of my healing journey because
yeah.
at the time I was seeing a counselor, and she encouraged me to just tell it.
Yes.
And
Right,
Shine
because you've
a
been
light
hiding
on
it for
it.
so long, right? You've been
right,
hiding it. It's a part
Yeah.
of, right, what's holding you captive is
Yes.
that it's you are meant to feel shameful for something that you experienced as opposed to just talking about it, right? Releasing it, because why continue to hold on to that shame that's not your fault?
right, right,
Hmm.
What's
exactly.
scary is that this predator is still out there.
Yeah.
I know that is. I mean, he's not in New York State though, so that's a good thing.
That's it, it's and that there's no um it's not every day that you hear. Usually predators, at least from the research, would say like they're boys or they're girls, but that he's boys and girls, triple threat, right?
Right,
So
right.
it's always a threat, but it's alarming, and even my nervous system is like, we got to do something. But that is where the pause has to happen. It's like telling the story is what can be done right now,
Right,
right?
Hmm.
absolutely. And I was actually told by some family members that I should not have shared that information and that I ruined his reputation.
Yeah. Well, then you can only understand the quality of that person. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And probably
Hmm.
likely involved because the fear of God of their story could come out, right?
Right. That's
'Cause
true.
if it was this prevalent and this hidden in the church and your mom broadcasting it, which it hurt me just as much as hearing you because it was your story to tell, it wasn't hers to broadcast, and it's a second abuser when your story is taken from you and she wasn't telling it to get you help. She was telling it out of a manic episode. So
Hmm.
it's like you it couldn't get any worse as you're telling it, as I was experiencing it through your voice. It's like you didn't even get to proclaim. So by the time it hit Facebook, your mom had already, right?
Right. Because again, how many adults already knew because
Yeah.
of, right, church hopping, sharing it, and, whoever knows when it wasn't done in manic state that she was sharing it with family, like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do now. Like, again, there was probably so many adults that were aware. And again, it took you to be 19 years old to take back your sovereignty, to find your voice, to find your will and courage to be like, and I'm done. I don't
Right.
need the rescuing. I don't need you to stop it. I'm going to stop it for myself.
What would
Right.
you say to moms, all moms in the world who might hear this and have children? Obviously, if they're a mom, they have children, but all moms in the world and say, like, my mom missed all these signs and I don't want you to miss them. And was a
Mm-hmm.
sign, and this was a sign, and this was a sign. Because long before she opened that door, there were probably so many signs. And so to the moms out there, like, what were the signs that your mom missed that you knew for sure, like, hey, this was going on. I know you couldn't have missed this one.
Right. I would say, I mean, just getting up, your spouse getting up every single night, obviously we have to go to the bathroom, but to be gone for extended periods of time, um, and also like my mom literally she didn't listen to me, or she listened but it fell on deaf ears. Like
Hmm.
she listened but she didn't actually take action and remove me from the situation or remove us from the situation.
Hmm.
So I would say, listen and investigate if your child tells you something.
Hmm.
Um, and I don't know, sleep with one eye open. No, I'm kidding. But
You're not kidding. You're not kidding, right? You're not
Now,
no,
do
no,
you
kidding.
think that, like, was there anything that you might have been exhibiting as a child that was experiencing this, that, right, wetting the bed, crying, things like that, that
right.
kind of the tall tale signs that something's going on?
Yeah, so I actually have had that conversation a number of times. I asked myself that and try to think back as a child in school, especially the early elementary years. I'm like, did I display any type of red flags? The only thing I can remember is just being very shy, quiet, and very reserved.
You
Kind of
didn't
like
want attention.
what do you call it? What's the word I'm looking for?
Introverted.
Introverted, not very
Hmm.
confident. Um, because I had a lot of friends. Um, yeah, but those are like the only things. I didn't wet the bed, surprisingly. I
Mhm.
was not a
And
bedwetter.
not everybody has those, and not ev and by no way, if you're listening to this, would I ever be asking this question for signs or things. It's to say it so that if there is anything a mother could quote investigate. What I'm not saying very clearly is no one is to feel guilty for not knowing if they truly don't know, because these
Hmm.
people are so cunning. You may not know.
Correct.
Right.
And there are
Yes.
truly cases where their mother would say, I had no idea. And those are true. So hear
Hmm.
this. Don't get on Sunny and myself. We're saying
Right.
that if there were anything that you would say, like, hey, I was doing this and this and this, I was surprised my mother didn't know, as a helpful hint. But again, these people are so cunning that you don't know sometimes.
Right. Yes.
Hmm.
And that's another thing too. Each and every situation and story is so different.
Right.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
very different. Like I said, from the outside, no one would have guessed that anything was wrong.
Hmm.
No one would have guessed that. So I think probably for me, I didn't have those typical red flags,
Mm-hmm.
outwardly. Um,
Right.
or like around my mom and stuff, because like I said, my mom, the one thing I remember about my mom is number one, she was a stay-at-home mom, but also she would, sleep a lot. She would sleep a lot and be in her bed a lot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Probably with our
So
mental health stuff.
Yeah.
yes, yep,
Mhm.
yep. So
There's so much to this story, even if, yeah, I won't lead off the page, but if she did know and just couldn't do it and slept through it all, like whatever she could handle, or couldn't handle. And this is not excusing her at all, because when
right,
she did know, the steps weren't, you didn't get the response that a child um, should have. And so that there's so much there, but then listening to you now, looking at you now, poised, telling your story. You're a pillar of courage, absolute pillar of courage. There is something inside of you that whatever the resilience, the God spark, something in there that didn't allow that experience to wreck you, right?
right,
And that is part of these becoming stories, because that easily could have
absolutely.
on every level of your life, it,
Mhm.
it could have, right?
Yes, yes, 100%. Because we actually have a family history of, trauma,
Hmm.
childhood trauma throughout the family, and
It's
like I said,
common that it goes on, right? But you're breaking
yes,
the cycle that we talked about
yes,
the other day. Like you likely born into this lineage that we talked about the other day, the nervous systems of your mother, your grandmother from the mtDNA. You came here with a certain set of wiring that you have rewired yourself. You couldn't be sitting here with that story. There's no way that you
right.
haven't gotten through a path of rewiring yourself. And I'm just in absolute awe and honor of you, even in the way that you're able to tell it. I don't hear I don't hear victim. So I'm like, there's just everything about you. And you could, because you were
Hmm.
victimized, right? You could
Right,
say that. But you didn't stay there. And so those are the
right.
stories. Like, what inside of you, what would you say to these women? There's going to be girls all along the spectrum, and boys all along, that are going to hear this. So
Hmm.
tell was one of your messages.
Yes, yes. Let it out. Like,
Get
tell
out.
everybody. Uh-huh.
Post
And
it if you have to, because secrets make you sick. Post it if you
mhm,
have to. Put the light on it.
right, absolutely, absolutely. That's huge. And then also, like, obviously, for me, God, like, He was there during, after, still is here. So I leaned on Him for guidance. It is literally only because of God I feel that I still have my mind,
Hmm.
that I did not lose my mind, and that I am where I am in life today.
Tell us where
Um,
you are.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
wasn't
let's talk
easy.
about some of the
That
other
that's
parts
also
again.
juicy.
We've made it to 19, and now we want to hear about, Terlesia after 19, out of that household. And right now,
Yeah.
what's this becoming story that has gotten you to having this conversation with us? What does that look like?
Does this
Yes.
feel
Okay.
complete? Do you feel complete to move into this?
Yes.
Because that is
Oh,
so big that if you
Yeah.
mhm.
have anything lingering, I want it to feel complete in the telling. And then
Yes.
we want to hear all about like what you're crushing right now.
Okay. Yeah. So I just want to, before I move on to that, I
Great.
will say changing like number one or number two or three, whatever number we're on, removing myself from that environment, that mindset, years and years of manipulation. I think that also played a very big role in, helping me get through all of that and actually like out of it, physically, mentally, and emotionally,
Right.
removing myself. I did have to cut them off both of them for, well, the one permanently cut off, but I also had to cut ties with my mom for a while, um, for my own mental health and my own healing journey, um, just to help, work through,
Yes.
basically, because I didn't have a mom who was there for me, nurtured
Mhm.
me, all the things. I didn't have that growing up. So I had to, cut that off. And then also, too, part of that is because she was still with him. She stayed married to him for 20 years. And so he was still chirping in her ear about me, saying I was rebellious. That's a whole nother story, too. But it was, yeah. So that definitely played a role.
Wow.
Right. Um,
Keep.
yeah. So I went on to meeting my husband and I met when we were 14. But anywho, we started dating at 18, and then we got married. I think we were maybe 20, I don't know, 4 maybe. And we've been married for about 15 and a half years. We have 3 kids. Um, the first, actually, okay, so at 19, I was actually working on my associates at OCC. It took me 10 years to finish that degree.
Did it.
It
You
took
did it.
me like 10 years. I'm saying from like the start of it to like the completion, like
You
a
did
good
it
10 years.
though.
I did it. And then I went on to getting my undergrad degree at SUNY Oswego, all online. I was in my 30s for that. And then I'm currently getting my master's in public health nutrition. I'll be done with that in December of 2026. Um,
Fantastic.
and I have
Why
3 kids.
nutrition?
What'd you say?
Why nutrition?
Why nutrition? Because I love, love, love all things health and wellness. So I'm really big into like working out. That's another thing that helped me through all of this is just going to the gym, working out, eating healthily. Um, and yeah, that's my passion. And I want that for other people as well, especially our community, the Black and Brown community. So yeah. And I don't know if I mentioned this, but I have 3 kids. I
Yeah.
have a 14-year-old daughter, 12-year-old son, and a 5-year-old son.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Fantastic. That's a lot. That's a lot of
Yes.
becoming. Yeah.
Mhm.
So what will you do with your MPH?
So that's something I'm actually working on. Because I would love, love, love to have like my own like health and wellness business or organization that addresses like the whole person,
Mhm.
mental health, physical health,
Yeah.
emotional, food, all the things.
Yes.
What's funny, Tammy, is that since I'm working with you for my internship, Terlisi is going to work for me for hers.
Right.
Yay. Full
Yes.
Got like a
circle.
whole like lineage happening right here.
Yes,
Yes.
full
Yes.
circle. And nothing
Hmm.
is by accident either, right? Nothing is by
Right.
accident. One of
Hmm.
the
Right.
things that's sticking to me is um, this is just caught out of the corner of my eye, but nothing is by accident. This card is like, it's called the Illuminatrix, which is meaning like shine the light on exactly what we're talking about, like the work that you're doing and share your story and the pure numbers that we know are out there related to this. We ask a lot of different questions, but what's sticking to me is how the church was involved in this
Hmm.
and that it did not protect you, but that you still stayed true to the essence of your belief in a higher power, despite a, a phony face cover for the family, the church, the this. It it is alarming. The whole story is still making me a little bit because as much as you're telling the story, he's still protected.
Hmm.
He's still running free. And the
Right.
church still knew about it. and do they know about others, right? And
Hmm.
so yeah, without like, hmm,
I know.
it's,
I will say this. Can I say this? So,
you say anything.
so actually, one of the pastors that knew about it on his deathbed, he apologized to me.
Hmm.
He
Hmm.
apologized for not, because, they're mandated reporters. So he actually apologized for not telling,
Hmm.
you know.
What I hear you say a lot, um, and I think it's nice, you said my mom apologized, the abuser apologized, the the pastor apologized. It's too late. It was too late
Mhm.
for all those apologies.
Right.
It was too late. And I'm sure it helped to hear in some way, like, but how do we get to the telling and the
Hmm.
stopping of it? Because yay, they apologized to you, but they were too late.
I was going to
Right.
say, are those apologies for you or for them?
Right.
Right. That is true.
Mhm.
Yeah. And you, the beauty I hear in you is I did get an apology almost like it was, but still feeling like the magnitude of what happened to you.
Because, right, there was no need for validation and understanding what was happening. Like you said, the way it was discovered was because your mom saw with her own eyes. So there was no need to validate that I'm not just a child making up a story or anything like that.
Any
So,
of
right,
that
Right.
other
it
stuff.
really was kind of the adults that were around you that needed to put an end to it immediately. But, right, apologies is a
Mhm.
formality.
Hmm.
Mhm. But kudos to Alicia because she's like, I will say that the pastor like there's still something in you, and thank God it's not in me. I'm hearing it in you, and I'm in awe, and I'm like,
I know. I should
I
be
want.
cold, right?
No, no. That's
Okay.
why I want to preface because someone's going to hear like, why are you provoking her in this? No,
No, it doesn't
no.
at all.
What what I want to say is, I love and honor the way that you're saying like, and I want to say that they apologize because you're in a place that is receiving the apology.
Hmm.
You received it. And so
Right.
far be it for me to add another layer of no, because Sonny and I are in a different.
We might be a little bit more cynical. It's
Right.
like,
I'm like, all
cool,
right.
good for
Right.
you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
But
Right.
to be where you
If
are is
right, you're
better in
on
the
your
nervous
deathbed and
system.
now you're ready to say something. Why didn't you say something to my mother,
Oh,
20 years ago
yeah, you're
and
just keeping it
say,
real.
get out of this situation? What help do you need with these kids to get away from this man? Because again, I can only imagine that, knowing some of your history, knowing some of the family dynamic, that might have been a part of the reason why there was such a hard choice for your mom to break away, because I think she is aware in a sense that she struggles and that she needs help and that she had these children that need to be cared for, and to have at least another adult in the home to be there
Hmm.
if she were not going to physically be able to do the rearing of these kids, that probably made her feel stuck, that
Hmm.
I know I have my battles. I know that I end up in the hospital and that somebody's got to be there to get these kids to school and to their things. And so, again, I can only imagine, that your mom was also dealing with, I know this is happening. How do I get out of this situation and not let my entire family fall apart, because we will end up with nothing if I don't have this person here to at least help make sure the bills are getting paid because she wasn't working. You know what I mean? I can.
I'm sure there are moms who are sitting listening to you going, that's
Mhm.
me. And
Hmm.
and I know it's happening. And maybe I even caught them, and that's me.
Mhm.
Hmm.
But then what do we want to say? We still want to say, go tell someone. Go
Mhm.
tell someone as the mother, like, go to DSS, go to the police. It's like, this is the situation I'm
That's
in.
right. Even if
It
it's
all
not the
fall
abuse
apart.
is happening to their children, it's happening to them, perhaps. That
Yeah.
I am
Right.
stuck in this vicious cycle of an abusive relationship because I don't have the courage just yet, or I don't feel that I have the skill set to be able to earn money right away, to be able to sustain a household, because those are the fears that are instilled a lot of times. You're not going to be anything without me. Where are you going?
Mhm.
What are you going to do?
Right. Right.
What would you say, uh, advice to the neighbor, advice to the pastor, advice to the teacher that says, I know something is off? Because if your church knew and your mom was telling here and there, there's a lot of people that miss not only your, but your sister's story and your brother's story is happening. Like, what is both of your thinking on? I know mine on like, I don't want to get involved in that because that is their house and we don't want to be dragging our name into what's going on in their house. What's your advice to the person who says, I know what's going on, but I don't want to get involved?
Yeah, I would say like for those in the church, like it's not a godly thing. Like it's not okay. And the police, law enforcement needs to be involved. Child protective services needs to be involved, and you need to contact them. Call the hotline. It should not be handled in the church, and that is it. Definitely, that's a no-no in my opinion. It's a no-no.
Yeah,
Not
agreed.
okay. You
I'm
cross the line.
glad. I'm happy that you said that because I know that everybody has a different opinion on getting involved. I see it even if you go to the store,
Right.
like you see someone getting hit, or like you know something's not quite right, or you see something and it's like it is a our message is a public service announcement. We are really saying if you see something, say something. We are really saying here's the 1-800 number that will be attached
Right.
underneath here.
Right. All this is where all the disclaimers and all the things are going to be popping
Yeah,
up that, right,
yeah.
here is
And
if
if
you are
you
struggling with your
know
own
him,
mental health, then you call 988 and you say,
Mhm.
look, this is what I'm dealing with today. Because again, we know that there's so many
what's the number,
resources
Sonny?
out there. 988 is the one for mental health,
And is that on a dog or is that global?
global.
So what about is there a global number for if you suspect child abuse?
Mm.
We can make sure that
We'll
we
find
find
something.
it. Yeah, we'll find something.
And
Yeah, sure.
how I'm also say if you know of Terlicia's story and know of this predator, you have you have um you have I want to say like I want to like please go tell. Please go to the
Mhm.
police. Go tell. Let them know that this person's in your neighborhood, regardless of what state, because we know they don't stop, right? So
Right.
we
Right.
know they don't
Absolutely.
stop. Now, how do we find you if we want to, as we pivot toward your because this took on its own life. Like I knew
Mhm.
just a part of your story about your parents, didn't know on, and so the life that it took on is magical in the sense that what comes through in the narrative medicine is meant to come through, right?
Mhm.
So someone else is
Mhm.
hearing this, and this is so prevalent in our society. And only we know the 1 in 3 and 1 in 4 from the reported. We don't know the
Right.
unreported. So you guys were there 7? You were 1 in 6. He's only,
Six of
only one
us.
brother didn't get, I mean, the whole house.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's maybe, yeah, anyway, I'm not going to say anything, but
But I think that again, like knowing who Teresa is now,
yes.
just the network of amazing people that she has surrounded herself with, that she is very intentional about keeping good people in her life, women all across the board that I'm like, I don't know how she keeps up with all these people. That there's just so many like good friends that she has. And so I know that, right, like we did not meet by accident because we have so many similarities. Um, And so, yeah, it's one of those things I'm like, oh, Maria, I'm so glad you made it out on the other side and that you're here.
Right, yes, thank God, like literally.
Right. There's just so
Yeah.
many stereotypes that come from these kinds of situations that would not have landed you in this position to be working on a master's degree with three kids
No.
at home, working a full-time job and able to still go to a church and feel safe, not safe,
Right,
feel in a good space, to have a husband, to have a long-term relationship, to find, right, the ability to love a man and your kids and yourself. So, right, there's
Tell your
so many
story.
trials and tribulations that you have overcome and been like, I can still find the beauty in life.
Yeah,
right,
and
yeah,
there's
no,
going to be
absolutely. And
someone who sees themselves in you and it's going to change their life.
Mhm.
So I just keep applauding you for delivering your message today because there are going to be many women who like, wow, if she's done that, I can do it too. And there's
absolutely.
mothers who are going to hear this and have a little bit more awareness about their children, regardless if it's the neighbor, if it's a school, if it's a church, if it's a, God forbid, the person they're married to, right?
Right. Oh
The
my gosh, yeah.
awareness is if they're a predator, they're a predator. And
Hmm.
they take on all kinds of masks. They're in
Mhm.
Yeah,
churches, they're in schools, they're everywhere. They're
everywhere.
in your good neighborhoods, they're in your military, they're in your law enforcement, they're everywhere.
Mhm.
Hmm. Yes.
Yeah, the predator wears many masks, and you just took
The
off
White
of that.
House.
The White House.
Right, yeah.
Yes, and all the
Yes.
houses.
In
Yeah.
all the houses. And I just want to
All the
say
houses.
this. In this part, I don't want to like broadcast it or anything, but things did
Can
not turn out.
so this part of the video is going to be live. So what
Oh,
we could do is if you want to say further when we stop it, I would love to hear
Yeah.
oh, okay, yeah.
what whatever you
Yes,
don't.
I'll do that.
Yeah, because I want to be respectful of um whatever comes out. But okay, so we like to ask in the closing part, like, is there a book, a movie, a one thing you want to leave with that little girl, that mom, that dad, that woman in college looking at you going, I want to be just like her? What would you say? What would you offer?
You said a book or movie
It
or
could be
something?
a book, a movie, any one thing.
Right, a
Usually there's
quote, something that
Whoa.
you kind of helped you lean into continuing on this path of healing and becoming, and right, there was like, oh, I found inspiration in this, whatever it might be.
Oh my gosh. Um, I don't know if this would fit, but for me, I mentioned earlier about journaling.
yeah,
So just writing my thoughts, my feelings, desires. Um, that's one thing that I use to help me, literally.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I would just write my writing prayers to God out. Um, yeah, if I was upset, happy, sad, upset, write it out.
It's fabulous. And where do you have any place that if people like, so you're going to graduate in December and then you're probably going to have some type of place because I want people to find you when you're done so that you can share your wellness journey. Maybe we'll have you back or we'll connect all the dots
Okay.
so that people can find you and take part of what you have to offer when you graduate.
Um, let's see, where can they find me? Like email or social media? I don't know.
Whatever
I've
you're
never
willing
been
to
asked
We'll
that
share.
circle
question.
back to that one.
Honestly, I've
Yeah.
never been
Once
asked
we get
that.
our LLC up and running and we're
You
like,
you got to. You got
mhm.
to.
Right. I know. I do have a like 2027 goals. So in that getting an LLC is one of them. So
So we just had a podcast before you, and the advice that this woman was given is that the comment was she said to her counselor, she said, "In 5 years, I want to buy a house in such and such city." And her counselor said, "Why would you wait 5 years? You can do that right now." And
mhm.
the light bulb went on. She's like, "Oh yeah, why would I have that as a 5 year goal?" I'm saying that to you because like you could get off this and go
And you'll
inside
get
Couldn't
a
it.
go get an
chat and
LLC
be
right
like,
now,
boom, boom,
right?
boom.
It's just some online
Within
paperwork.
24 hours, you got an LLC.
Right. And how much is it?
They're
It's
Even
like
not
no
that
300,
matter
right?
expensive.
what,
Yeah.
right? Yeah,
Yeah,
even to
LLCs are
start the
not like
process.
super expensive. It's really just the filling out the paperwork and stuff because I have to
Right.
do
Yeah.
actually, sooner than later as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hmm.
And it brings this 2027 vision to this week.
Hmm. Okay.
You considering it?
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
So you got accountability partners here
I'll just
because
add it to my
we,
list, my to-do list.
oh,
Right.
I don't want to do that because
Wash clothes, feed kids, work, and get an LLC created.
but this
Yes.
is
And
in the becoming version though. It's like you got those are things you are part of daily life, but there
mhm.
are you to keep on the becoming pathway, like is the version of you right now that put it off in 2027 the woman you want to become, or is the woman you want to become gonna do it this week?
The woman I want to become will do it this week. Sunny,
Look, I have to do it. So we can,
we
right,
can do
tag
it
team
together.
this. I'll let
Get
you
your
know all the steps.
computers,
Yeah.
go to a coffee
Right.
bar and
We
crank it
will
out.
just look it up and like, how do we do this? And right, what a bank
Get the
accounts have to
momentum
set up.
going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be done. And I'm not trying to add anything because I'm sure people are like, why are you giving her work? No, I'm not giving her work. But we
No.
can literally stay in a version of ourselves without realizing it. But
Hmm.
a big step to the becoming is like, where can people find me? I'm still
Hmm.
hidden. No, I'm not going to be
Right.
hidden until 2027. Coming out right now in
Right.
2026. Like, no matter what shape it looks like, it doesn't have to
I
Hmm.
be
was gonna
perfect.
say because I always tell her, I'm like, I don't know why you are not getting headshots done and modeling fitness clothing and all the workout videos and things, and that
Look
can
at Sunny's
transform
Instagram.
into
She's doing it.
something else. Because I've every time like the gym that she goes to, they always like do like really cool little pans around the gym and show the slow motion exercise. I was like, I know her. I was like, she is killing it and her body is T. I'm like her muscles are popping every time they're all the girls, you got to show me your arm workout. I was like, I was like, she
There
be in
you
the
go.
gym. So I'm like, yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. All right. So, huge honorable bow to you for sharing everything you shared so articulately. So, because the way that it came forward, there's been so much processing and work. You can see that you've done the lifting on what it takes to tell your story in a way that you actually came out with it. So, I'm not sure uh, if you can sense it in yourself, but there's a victory in your voice that I just can't wait to see how your story unfolds over time.
And that's one
And
thing I wanted to ask before we kind of close out. Teresa, like because of the things that you experience, what is the thing you are proudest of yourself from that experience?
Um, I would say getting out. Um, because, I look at my mom, and I look at my sister.
mm,
Um, and honestly, they weren't able to get out. I
hmm
mean, he's physically not in their lives, but I still feel like he still has like a hold on them.
sure.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Um,
He has their energy field. Remember the quantum entanglement. You
Mhm.
mhm,
untangled.
right, right.
We know
Um,
this by your mandala. They weren't even there.
right, right. That is
Kudos.
true. And maybe
Kudos.
that's
Mhm.
why
Kudos.
they didn't show up.
Yeah,
Mhm.
because you did the work. Yeah,
Hmm.
and you can grieve for that, but you can also pat yourself on the back for that because if they were in there, life could look very different.
Right. That is true.
Mhm.
Yeah. I guess you answered my question for me. Because I've been thinking about them. Like, why didn't they show up? I didn't even, because you know how
Because you
sometimes if
did
you,
the work.
oh, sorry, my laptop fell. Because you know how like sometimes if you can want something really bad, And so mentally I could have had them show up, right? But really they aren't there. And
Mm-mm.
it's
And
not
they
a bad
aren't
thing. I
there.
was thinking like,
Not a bad thing. It's
Yeah,
because
that's
you
why the prompts are very vague and just kind of instantaneous because the point of it is to not start placing people that you think should be
mind.
where or that I don't want them there. And that's why we just kind of say like, all right, yep, quickly, not too much thinking into this, just take a moment. What do you see? Who do you see? And write it down. And so it is really supposed to be right, oh, here response, not a here response.
Hmm.
right, yeah.
And then your relationship unfolds in a way that is healthy for your nervous system. Have you read this book?
No, but is
She
that the one?
texted
Yeah,
me.
that's the one
Yeah, she
I
was
said
like,
I
Sonny, I
want to get
have to
that.
get it. I was like, I told you. I was like,
You
you
I do.
got
just
to
I
get
want to
the
get that
book.
book. Yes.
There's going to
Mhm.
be a whole podcast just on this book alone because you will begin to read it. You'll hear your story in it. You'll hear your mother's story in it. You'll hear your children's story in it because it's the lineage of addiction, trauma, child abuse, and
Hmm.
that initial attachment that we all need to the mother that's absent, and how our life takes a path of seeking out relationships that fill that hole that needs to be nurtured. And we fill it in sometimes very unhealthy ways until the
Mhm.
eyes of our eyes have been opened and we start calibrating our nervous systems so that we're self-parenting just because we didn't get the parenting. We
Right,
just didn't
right.
get the parenting. And so we have to learn to self-regulate because we inherited nervous systems that were dysregulated. Period.
Mhm.
It's you
Right.
don't have a bad baby, you've got a nervous system that's dysregulated. Yeah, no such thing as
Yeah,
a bad baby. Babies are good.
right.
So
Yeah.
that's why they weren't there when you said it out loud. And it was like, because you've done the work. I just have to say that we got to get a muscle, we got to get a flex shot. I saw your muscle.
Yeah.
Just, just put it
My
up there.
left muscle, I was like, oh, this woman.
Come on, put it up there. I
Are you
seen it.
serious?
What? Look at
Right. I
that.
told you. I told you. All the girls, every time she is out and about, they're like, what do you do?
I
I'll
know.
tell
She
you.
is
I'm
in
gonna
the
sign up
gym.
for. I'm signing up for it. Get that
Hmm.
LLC. I want the
Well,
program.
well, also too, I'm actually training for a High Rocks race in October, so I have a little bit of extra muscle.
Follow the story. We got to get you all hooked up on the
Right. That's what
day-to-day
she needs to just step into her influencer role because you could be
Yeah.
filming your High Rocks training and all your meals and all the things.
Oh,
And boom,
right.
that's a business right there.
It's going to
I
tie
know,
back
right?
to your original Facebook post, influencing.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that's true.
I mean, you
That's
Right.
true.
started
That's your voice.
influencing right there,
That's my
like
voice. Yeah.
Now
boom.
you're telling the
Maybe
story that you want to tell.
if you
Hmm.
have that still, I want to like a snapshot. I'll make that the thumbnail. Like this was like what we're.
Oh
This
my
is what we're
gosh, I
talking.
wish. I no longer have Facebook. I
Yeah.
only have Instagram.
Well, you're ahead of me
Yeah.
in many ways because Sunny's still helping me do the post. But I appreciate you coming on.
Yes,
You
Yes,
thank you for
thank
were
having
you.
me.
extremely brave.
Yeah.
These, I'm going to shut it off so I can hear the other part of what you wanted to say, but let everybody know that we'll be able to find this
Oh,
on.
yeah, let's. Oh, yeah, I was gonna say we got to do our closeout.
Okay.
Yeah. Where will they be able to find it, Sunny?
So, for more Becoming podcast stories, you can find us on YouTube and Spotify. And thank you again to our amazing guest, Terlicia, for sharing her Becoming story. And we are going to make sure that she follows through where we can continue to watch her journey. And so, thank you again so much. Stay tuned. We've got more episodes coming up. And be sure to like and subscribe and follow. Make sure you turn your notifications on so you can hear the next Becoming story. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes. Okay, I'm going to stop the recording.